This is Governor Greg Abbott. It's great to have the opportunity to speak with you. As many of you may know, I was scheduled to be in Fort Worth, Texas today for a Get Out the Vote event in Tarrant County. Obviously, I'm not there, and as you might imagine, it's because of weather conditions that prevented me from being there, but I wanted to use this opportunity to get to visit with you, many of you from Tarrant County, some of you perhaps from across the entire state of Texas, about the importance of going to go vote. Whether it be today or tomorrow or on election day, making sure that your voice is heard. It is so important this election cycle that your voice is heard, because if you look at the election process going all the way to November, this is an election of the most stark contrast between candidates, between values, and between ideals we've ever seen in the history of Texas. Look, for example, about issues like jobs and the economy. If you look at what Texas has been able to achieve, all of us, we have created an economic juggernaut. Texas is number one in the United States as the best state for doing business. Number one in the United States for economic relocations. Texas is the number one state in America to start a small business. When you add all this together, Texas now has the 9th largest economy in the entire world. Most importantly, however, for all of you, my fellow Texans, is that because of what we've done economically, more Texans have a job today than ever before in the history of our state. I am running for re-election to keep Texas the job-creating machine that we've been able to experience. To the contrary, if you look at what people like Beto O'Rourke are talking about, they're talking about imposing the Green New Deal and other restrictions that would destroy the energy jobs that we have in the state of Texas. Energy jobs, by the way, that made America energy independent. Energy jobs that pay so well to so many employees. And I am running for re-election to ensure that those high-paying energy jobs will not be destroyed in Texas. You know, when you think about these ideologies, it's really a radical leftist agenda that we see, and you see that surface in things like in our classrooms. In our classrooms where we found, much to our amazement, that critical race theory was being taught in Texas schools. That's the kind of thing you would expect perhaps in California or New York or some other state like that, not in Texas. So I was astonished, as were other lawmakers, when we saw a book and other literature that was being taught to students in elementary schools in Texas. And that's why I signed 2 laws during the regular and special sessions this past year to ban the teaching or use of critical race theory in every subject, in every grade, in every public school in Texas, so that now Texas has the strongest ban on critical race theory of any state in the United States. But listen, candidly, if you look at the way that the radical leftist agenda is used, maybe the worst way that it's used is to make our communities less safe. Candidly, the radical leftists make our communities more dangerous. Let me give you one example. It's the idea that has been espoused by radical leftists in California and New York, but also supported by Beto O'Rourke. And that is this crazy ideology of defunding the police. Listen, y'all know Texas. Here in Texas, we don't defund law enforcement. We support our law enforcement officers, period. And that's exactly why I worked with the legislature to make sure that we passed a law that I signed that will defund any city that defunds our law enforcement officers. We will not allow our law enforcement officers to be defunded. And that's another reason why I'm running for re-election, to make sure that no radical leftist will ever hold office in Texas that would defund our law enforcement officers. But listen, as dangerous as defunding the police is, the open border policies imposed by Biden and supported by Beto are even more dangerous, even more reckless. Let's go back in time to just over a year ago. In the Trump administration, President Trump used 4 policies to make the border more safe, more secure, with a lower number of illegal crossings in decades. He did 4 things. One is he implemented the Remain in Mexico policy, the Title 42 policy. He ended catch and release, And then also he began to build the border wall. When Biden took over, he eliminated all of those policies that led to the lowest number of illegal immigrations that we've seen in a long time. And instead, what Biden has done is opened up the entire border. It's telling people across the world they can come across the border illegally and there will be no consequences. As a result, there have been people coming from more than 150 different countries. And we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of people who are coming here, not seeking a better job, but coming here to commit crimes. And that's exactly why Texas is stepping up and doing more than any state has ever done in the history of the United States to secure our border. We are making sure that we are going after the criminal element that's coming across the border. And that's exactly why I deployed 10,000 National Guard to work with the Texas Department of Public Safety to help secure our border. They are working to arrest drug smugglers, human traffickers, people who are coming from terrorist-sponsored nations. You know, it's ironic that as we speak right now, President Biden is focused on the border between the Ukraine and Russia. He should be focused on the border of the United States of America. And, you know, when you think of Russia, you think of terrorist-sponsored nations. There have been people apprehended coming across the border from terrorist-sponsored nations. And you know what? President Biden does not seem to care about it. Another thing President Biden does not seem to care about is the amount of fentanyl that's coming across our border. There has been enough fentanyl seized by Texas law enforcement over the past year that would be enough to kill every man, woman, and child in Texas, California, New York, Illinois, and Florida combined. You would think that would alert President Biden to step up and do something about it. But you know what? I've never heard him say anything about it at all. The only people I know who are stepping up to seize that fentanyl, to stop it from coming across our border, is Texas law enforcement. Texas is having to do the federal government's job. And then on top of that, Texas now is building our own border wall. Texas is the only state in the history of America who's building a border wall like what we are. The border wall that we're building is the exact same border wall that President Trump was building. We're using the exact same contractor. It's about 30 feet high. It goes up in panels. It's about 10 yards wide. And we put up panel after panel consistently. And then recently, we were able to get almost 2,000 additional panels. You may recall you saw on TV panels and other materials that your taxpayer dollars paid for that Trump was going to use to build the wall that Biden was allowing to just lay on the ground. We were able to get those materials and use them, and now the materials that President Biden was allowing to just stay on the ground, we are putting up to help secure the border in the great state of Texas. I am running for re-election to ensure that Texas will continue to build that border wall and to secure our border. But listen, as much as safety is an issue in this election, freedom itself is on the ballot. You know, when you think about your freedoms, you think about the Bill of Rights, for example, the First Amendment. And in the First Amendment, there's freedom of speech, and also there's freedom of religion. I want to take you back in time to a day when I was the Attorney General of Texas. There is a monument on the Texas Capitol grounds that has etched into it the Ten Commandments. And an atheist was walking across the Texas Capitol grounds and asked a federal judge to tear down that monument. And I would not allow that as your Attorney General. And I fought that all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and we won, and that monument still stands on the Texas Capitol grounds today. To the contrary, we see actions and ideologies like what Beto has advanced when he ran for president. Beto wanted to eliminate the tax-exempt status of churches that refuse to bow down to the woke left agenda. I will not let that happen as governor. And then after the First Amendment, obviously comes the Second Amendment. And you all know what Beto said. He said that he is going to come and take your guns. He was going to engage in gun confiscation. That's outrageous that someone who was running for president and now running for governor wants to seize your guns, trample your Second Amendment rights. To the contrary, what I've done is I've signed more than 20 laws protecting your Second Amendment rights, including laws making Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state and making Texas a constitutional carry state. Listen, whether it be from freedom to safety, to our schools, to our kids, to our jobs, to every segment of our state, there is a gaping divide between the radical leftist agenda that Beto would seek to impose on our state versus the conservative approach that we've taken that means less government and more individual liberty. That's the pathway that's led to the massive job growth that we've seen in the state. It's the pathway that's elevated Texas to the 9th largest economy in the entire world. It is the pathway that when I am reelected, with your support, we will keep Texas the best state. The only way that happens, however, is for you to get involved, for you to go vote, and stay engaged, whether it be knocking on doors, making phone calls, sending out texts, whatever the case may be. Your help is needed if we're going to win this. Win this for you. Win this for your values. And if you do that, we will keep Texas the best state in the greatest nation in the history of the world. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.